Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Our mission is to see a world well led. And our strategy to get there? To empower leaders like you to lead every day. So let's get to work.
Together is better, especially when together is engaged. It's what we've been talking about here this week. Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Mark Miller with me here. I'm Randy Gravitt. We're fired up to talk about engaging and developing others. And today, it's the idea of building community. I'm glad you're with me today, and we're together. Let's dive into some content.
Yeah, so let's talk about this idea of community. It's not something you often hear discussed in a business context. In fact, we didn't even have language for this until about, a couple of decades back. What we had discovered is that the teams that got to know each other and they began to care deeply about each other outperformed those who didn't. I mean, they're all doing the same work, but it was this intangible that we began to explore. We even had an outside consultant who came in to help us in those early days. And they were there to consult on our team management practices, the way we did problem solving, the way we facilitated, the way we did the agendas. And I'll never forget this woman, a high-powered leader herself. She said, now, those things you do to kind of get to know each other, she said, I don't really know what to do about that. But she said, it seems to help a lot.
Yeah.
And we said, yes, we think it does help. And then ultimately we codified our point of view on that. And we said, what we're actually trying to do is to create community, a place where people know and care and celebrate and mourn and actually do life together. And it actually enhances engagement and performance.
Obviously, performance goes up when engagement does. It's exactly right. And so there's some things that we can actually do here to make this happen strategically, I would say. I mean, that's the thing. People, a lot of times you start talking about this in an environment, we go to all these, companies, and we're talking to their leaders. And a lot of times at the beginning of a session, especially on this idea of building a community, people will say, I walked into that feeling like this is soft stuff. This is not business. Is this really going to help us with what we're trying to do? And then they'll walk away going, that's actually the hardest thing you said. It wasn't soft. It was actually hard for me because I've not been paying attention to this.
And it was really good.
And it was really good. It's exactly, it actually changes organizations if they've not been paying attention to this, and all of a sudden they get to know each other and they begin to serve each other and all that stuff you're describing there. It can just be catalytic, especially when we think about this idea of driving engagement, raising this level of engagement. So I'm excited. Yeah. It may be some new language for people here, but it is a huge opportunity.
And it may be a new concept. We discovered some research by Katzenbach and Smith, John Katzenbach and Smith. They wrote a book years ago called The Wisdom of Teams, and they described what we're talking about.
What we're calling community.
They didn't have a name for it, but they said the chances of being on a team that experienced this level of care was only once in a lifetime. And I sat down with John and I said, John, I disagree. He said, well, tell me about that. And I said, if you set the strategy, if you decide as a leader that this is part of your approach to high performance, I said, I believe you can have about a 90 to 95% success rate. And that's what we've done over the years. We've said community is not extracurricular. It is core and essential to high performance. So the first thing you got to do, if you even want to entertain this, is you have to decide.
Yeah, as a leader, you do get to decide whether your people are going to know each other, care about each other. And you say, well, I can't really decide whether they care about each other. You get to create an environment where those things can happen.
You can facilitate
You can facilitate that. And what we find when leaders make that decision, it is a lever, a strategic lever, not just to, we don't want to do it just so we can increase performance. We really have to care. You can't demonstrate care unless you care. But if you really do care and you want to create that kind of environment, it is incredible what happens.
It's incredible what happens.
We would say,
performance.
We've said before, it's the differentiator. It's what gets you from really good performance to the rare air of high performance.
It is the single determining factor, I would say, that differentiates good teams from great teams.
Yeah.
And the great teams always have this sense of
They
community.
do. It's amazing to me. I always think as I watch I watch a lot of sports teams, and we work with sports teams, and it's, to me, it's incredible how the team with the highest payroll typically doesn't win the championship. I mean, sometimes it happens, but like, you can't buy what we're talking about. It's
Right.
like the teams with it's wild. They all have good players, but at the end of the year, a lot of times it's a fan base, wearing their hats backwards, or, we won the World Series here in Atlanta a couple of years ago. The whole city had pearls on when Jocko was playing, and it's like these crazy handshakes. And again, all the teams are really good, but it's something about that unifying. And we've just seen a few weeks ago, these NFL teams, some of them that were supposed to be playing in the Super Bowl here in the next week or two, they're gone.
not.
Their coaches are gone. I mean, it's like there's a lot of that they just couldn't align everybody together. And this
And-
community part is unity is a big part of community.
Yeah,
right?
I don't want to chase this much further, but to your point about the NFL examples, I've heard in several of those cases when people were trying to figure out what happened,
Yeah.
and the phrase has been used, they lost the locker room.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
to me, that means they lost the community.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They lost the
They didn't
community.
forget how to play football.
They didn't forget how to play football.
Exactly. Exactly. That's good. So there's some things we can do, just a couple of them. We can value the diversity on our team. You got all kind of different ways to think about that, but you come from different backgrounds. You got different education. You've got the stories around your table are powerful when you start listening to where you came from and what you've been through and what you're dealing with. All that stuff is a way to do that. We also, let's just push on that story piece a little bit here, to know you talk about in the book, to know each other deeply. I think it's more than just, how was your weekend, but you start having some conversations about where you grew up and what's hard and what's the most challenging thing you're facing right now.
Mm-hmm.
You start to listen to people's story. That can be a powerful thing. And so you got any other thoughts there on?
Well, just a quick example of that. Some of our audience will know the name, remember the name Lou Holtz, who probably became famous when he was the coach at Notre Dame,
Yeah.
won a national championship there, but had a tremendous run. I think he was at South Carolina, and they won
Yeah.
13, 14, 15 games straight, and nobody saw that coming. This was post Notre Dame, and I had an opportunity to talk to him about that. And what happened along the way in his career is he discovered the power of community.
Yeah.
He was coaching football fundamentally the same way he was in 1969 in Arkansas at the end of his career,
Yeah.
right? The fundamentals, the blocking and tackling and the play calling.
Yeah.
But he stumbled upon the idea of community. And one of the things he did was to make all the players share their stories with the rest of the team. And I read an excerpt from an interview of one of the players. He said, it's hard to give up on somebody once you know their story.
That's so
I just thought
powerful.
that was really powerful.
Yeah, that's so powerful. It's so powerful. So it maybe as you hear that, you go, we don't really know the
Yeah,
stories
do you know the
around our
stories,
table.
the
This is
people-
an opportunity for you. Might be your takeaway today. Just go, you know what? I'm going to talk to somebody on my team, and we're going to spend a few minutes. We're going to talk about our story. You got other work to do. I got that.
This is work.
This is work.
This is work.
This is
This is not extracurricular.
No, it's right.
This is
And-
work if you care about high performance.
That's exactly right.
If
That's
you care about
exactly
high
right.
performance.
And I'd just say the last thing is we have an opportunity to celebrate people maybe more than we do as well. And that's another way that we can build genuine community. We're always quick to point it out when people don't do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But how many times, your old co-author, Ken Blanchard, wrote the 1 Minute Manager. He said, catch people doing stuff right. I mean, I
Right.
think that's a powerful mindset too, and be able to celebrate not just their birthdays this week and their anniversary. Those things are great to celebrate. But when somebody does great work, we have a chance to really validate that. And, hey, I see you, and that we pay attention to that. And that community begins to grow, which ultimately leads to them leaning in, that trust and engagement.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm not just an employee here. I'm a person
Yeah.
to this leader.
Yeah. Let me
So-
add one word to that. The big stuff is obvious. Sure, you need to celebrate the weddings and
Yeah,
and
birthdays.
and the birthdays. Yeah. But look for the little things as well. Don't miss the little things.
Yeah.
Somebody finishes a hard project and they finish it on time and on budget. Stop.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that. Recognize that. That celebration, I don't understand. It's really a mystery to me how powerful or why it's so powerful. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But when you start creating that type of culture that community will flourish.
Yeah, and engagement just kind of right behind it, which is
and then performance behind it, right? Engagement's
exactly.
actually not the goal. We should probably say
right.
that.
We're
Should have already. Performance is the goal.
Right. We're developing people to perform better and to be their very best. That's great. So as we wrap this up today, it's your job as a leader to make sure you're creating an environment where people are leaned in. This building genuine community is our opportunity really to raise the level of engagement. But it does so much more than that. It actually creates a together place. And together, remember we started, together really is better. I hope you will do everything you can to create a together environment. It starts with building community. It's your job as a leader. Remember, the best leaders lead every day.